Hey everybody, it's Odie Coyote. Welcome back to the Bar Talk Happy Hour. You guys have been hearing me talk about it the entire show. Now it's time to bring him actually on the air. That's right. I have the one and only Mr. Randy Seymour. Randy, you're back again. I mean, I should say you're not our guest. I mean, you might as well be a co-host at this point. How you doing, though?
I'm doing great. They let me out of my straitjacket for this portion of you guys' radio program, and I'm so thankful because, boy, do my arms hurt.
Your arms hurt. I bet you're probably struggling, right, to get out of that straitjacket, right?
Yeah. And when they untie it, man, it's a wonderful. You just don't know that great feeling that you have just to be able to flail your arms around.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is here at the asylum, but it's all good.
I think anybody who does this so long and has to put up with so much kind of goes a little crazy after a little bit. So I think it's totally normal
I don't know. I think most of us, and I'm going to put you in this category. I think we were kind of born crazy to actually believe that we could do this and make a whole lot of money. And then we find out, well, we can have a whole lot of fun, but who knows about that money thing? So I'm all good with it, though. I'm telling you, I've come to the conclusion that the more money you have, the more somebody's trying to take it away from you.
Producer Raven, what do you think? Are we crazy with all the money we spent and all the time and energy and everything else that we've put into getting this thing going? This thing called the music industry. Are we crazy?
Well, like I always say, we're chock full of nuts.
We are.
That's it. There you go.
We wanted to make it a special point to make sure Producer Raven ended up on the interview because last time we talked, she was sick, and I had to do this whole thing by myself. I had no guidance.
You survived.
I might have survived, but I was not happy about it. I missed you, like we all did. Randy, you missed her, right?
To tell you the truth, I felt incomplete as a human being.
Aww.
When Jenny, your promoter, messaged me, she asked, "Is Raven going to be a part of this one?" She was sick last time. I'm like, "Yep, she'll be a part of it. Don't worry."
Yeah.
I got voluntold.
Here's the thing: you'll never be able to get anything by Jenny. Don't even try. So there's no forgetting on that one. So she'll make sure that the details are all covered. So yeah, she knew that.
Oh, she wants to meet our son and everything else. She wants us to come down to Nashville and see you guys and come out there and see her and go see all the things she's so excited about out there and we're planning on it. We're gonna try and get that on the calendar this year. So hopefully, I know you're still in Texas though, right?
That's where I live, man.
Yeah,
that's me. Yeah, you'll have a big time when you go over there though. She'll feed you good and she'll show you around and you'll have a lot to talk about. So you'll have a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, Randy, let's get on into it. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about what's been going on since the last time we talked. And I'll just give you the open mic. Let everybody know. What have you been up to?
Well, I released a song on Labor Day of last year called a Jimmy Buffett song. And I just kind of put it out simply because it was Labor Day weekend, which is now Jimmy Buffett weekend for all of us who revere the Parrot Head King. And I had such good response that it's still getting played this year somewhere on radio stations and still making playlists and stuff. So I had no intention of that, but good. I like it when something kind of sits out there and kind of sticks to something for a while. So I've been still kind of enjoying hearing about that. And we put out a song called A Mother's Prayer that I did, a long time ago. I wrote it with a guy named Heath Wright, who is the lead singer for a group called Ricochet. And that was very successful in its own right this past fall. And then especially in Europe. And now we have come to the point where we have a song that I recorded at Sun Records back in 2003 with my band. And I did a remix on it. I liked it so well that I put it on my Lukenbach album, and it is in release now. It's called Big Bertha. It is the sad ballad of none other than Big Bertha, the golf club Big Bertha, not a woman Big Bertha, not the gun that they would use in World War I, but yeah, the golf club. There you go, made by Callaway. So So that's where we're at right now. We're having fun with this thing, and it's already actually made several playlists in its first week out. So I'm just really, I don't know. I mean, I keep repeating it, but I'm really just very, very happy, honored, and pleased with how it's been going so far, and it's really just gotten started. So I don't know where it's going to go. I'm going to make a confession. I don't really pay a lot of attention to charts. When they end up there, I try to do my best to tell the people who are in charge of them and tell the people who basically help those things happen, thank you. Thanks so much. To get recognized for something that you do and something that you love to do is kind of, it's still beyond belief, no matter what level that it's on. So Big Bertha is right there right now doing that whole thing.
Yeah, Big Bertha. And what I think is kind of cool with Big Bertha is, we've got a lot of hits from you. You were talking about Jimmy Buffett's song Before Elvis Was the King. That was the other one that we did. We've got so many good ones from you, and they're still airing on Mixed Country 106. So, yeah, absolutely. We love having you, and we've been telling other stations, of course, this is part of Bar Talk Happy Hour, and it's going to go out to all the stations that air this particular show. We'd love for them to pick up more Randy Seymour music, because in my mind, Randy, you have got to be one of the most underrated artists. You got a unique. You bringing what was old new again. Do you want to talk a little bit about your sound? It has this I wouldn't call it rockabilly, but this definitely like 70s Elvis kind of vibe, that sort of era of rock and roll, which kind of blended with country in a way. You want to talk about your sound a little bit and what makes you unique in that regard?
Well, for anybody who knows anything about music and archive music and history and music that's been popular over the years, I have one disc or one album or one record that when somebody says, "What's your desert island disc?" which means if you were stranded on a desert island and you only had one record that you could listen to, what would it be? Mine would be an album by Creedence Clearwater Revival called Cosmo's Factory. And if you listen to that record, it is just chock full of everything that I've ever loved about music that's been on the radio. It's got rockabilly, it's got straight up rock, it's got kind of a country rock, it's got psychedelic, it's got a gospel sounding song on it with a sort of a very much a St. Louis, Memphis blues sound to it. So all of those things are on John Fogerty's Creedence Clearwater Revival's record called Cosmo's Factory. So really, if you want to kind of go to the source of where my excitement starts about creating a record, I really, subconsciously, I kind of default to the way that record always felt to me when I played it when I was a kid. I played it incessantly. And that record has, I mean, they've got a song that Elvis recorded on it. They've got a song that Roy Orbison recorded on it. So John Fogerty was very keen to cover some other classic artists that were his influences as well. So it all kind of blended into my influences. So I would say Creedence Clearwater Revival was a really, really good foundation for what I do, because they do cover, and he does cover a lot of what I really love. So, when you listen to one of my records, you may hear elements of that here or there. I mean, I certainly don't sound like John Fogerty. My guitar playing isn't completely reminiscent of it, but there's a sort of a feel and sort of a groove and sort of almost a conceptual idea musically that goes on with that I like to try to establish when I'm making a record. Simply because that record was always fun for me to listen to. It was always like an adventure, and it was always like a record that was telling a story. So I like to tell stories with my songs, with the lyrics, and I like for the music and I like for the melodies and everything to kind of complement those stories, to take somebody on a little trip. So that's the essence of it, really.
Yeah, I think that's great. And you know what? We're going to talk maybe a little bit more about your music, what's coming up. We're going to certainly get more into Big Bertha and that song. I think we're going to take a quick break right now, but we'll be back with a whole lot more coming up on the Bar Talk Happy Hour. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Randy Seymour picking on the banjo for you. Totally impromptu, not planned, but I just had to get Randy back here on the Bar Talk Happy Hour when I was like, "Whoa, he can play banjo?" And I asked him very nicely in the break if he would do some picking for us, and there you go, folks. The musical stylings of Randy Seymour.
I just have to prove to everybody I'm actually an Americana type of an artist. So once you own one of these and you also play electric guitar, you've qualified. So
you're the only musician I know who can play banjo and electric guitar. I don't know of any other musician that can do that. As far as I know, I'm not either one. But as far as I know, from what I've learned a little bit from talking to musicians, those are very two different skill sets.
They are, but there are musicians who play banjo that you might not guess play banjo. Like if you listen to "Old Man" by Neil Young, there's a banjo on there, and the guy that's playing the banjo is James Taylor. So there are people that do this, and of course John McEwen was a great banjo player who was the guy who started the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and he played all types of instruments. So usually somebody that's a banjo player that's in this business, unless they're straight up in a straight up bluegrass band, they're gonna move around and play all types of instruments. And a lot of times, most of the banjo players I've met can play every bluegrass instrument. I seriously have known some guys who play resonator dobro guitar, and they embarrass other banjo players with the skills that they have. They're so good. So stringed instrument guys, they try not. I'm a little bit like that, so I try not to limit myself to just I just play the 6-string. It's like, no, I've got a 12-string, got a 5-string. I play some mandolin. I just kind of move it around, whatever I can make sound come out of.
Have you ever, in your albums, when you're in the recording studio, do you play different parts on the album, or do you have studio musicians pretty much?
I usually have a tracking session normally with maybe a drummer and a bass player, and I may be the person laying down the rhythm guitar. And sometimes I'll hire in a piano player, or sometimes I'll play the piano part myself, depending on the song and what I feel like it might need. It's always down to the characteristics of what's going to make the song be the best that it can be. So and it's kind of a gut instinct, and then also it's kind of a guess. So I just try to go with both and thread that needle, and usually it works out. So I like to have fun with it.
So let's talk about Big Bertha. And this is your latest single release, but of course we talked about that this has been out for a little bit, since 2022, off your album Lukenbach, which is a fantastic album. I think it pretty much sums up everything you've talked about yourself in your musical styling. I think for me, if I was on a desert island and talked about that, I think Lukenbach would be my album. I'm not even kidding, because I like it. It's so good, and it's stuck in my head. I still will hum "Living My Life to a Jimmy Buffett song."
Yeah.
It's stuck in my head. I hear it all the time in the car, even when I'm not hearing that particular song. That melody comes into my head, and I just there it is.
That's a huge compliment, especially from someone like you who listens to like tons of music.
I get about 30 submissions every day in my email inbox. And we, between producer Raven and I, we go through each and every one of them, and that's how it works. Big Bertha, let's talk about the inspiration behind it, because for those who didn't catch it in the first break, it is not a woman necessarily. It is something entirely else. Can you explain the image here and explain the song Big Bertha and its inspiration?
I'm out on the golf course. We're actually filming the video there, and my brother's running the camera, and he's saying, "All right, hit the ball." So I'm trying to look like, give it my best address the ball deal. So that's a Callaway golf club. Callaway's the people who make the Big Bertha golf club. So it's the inspiration for the song. Well, it didn't come originally from me. It came from a guy by the name of Carl Perkins. I met Carl back in the late 1990s, around 96. And we started writing some songs together. And he had a song that he made up about a Big Bertha golf club that had gotten stolen, because that actually happened to him. Somebody stole his Big Bertha golf club, which is a driver that people use because it's got a very large head on it, so you don't really miss the ball and you can hit it a long way. And Carl loved his, and somebody took it out of his bag one day. So he wasn't happy about it. He didn't know what to do. So his daughter said, "Dad, why don't you just make up a song?" So he started making up a song, and they were kind enough to say, "Randy, why don't you help us finish this thing?" So I did, and I actually recorded it in 2003. Carl was so prolific and doing so much stuff, he never really had time to actually commit this thing to a record. So I was fortunate enough to be able to do it myself. And the song actually had such a spirit to it that Ronnie Millsap wanted to record it for a greatest hits album, but Carl's estate was not worked out. So it sort of kind of sat around for a while. And Ronnie remembered the song. And so about 2 years ago, he and his producer called and they said, "We really want to do that song." I said, "Well, everything's settled now. I know that everything is clear and ready to go." So they recorded it and they called Vince Gill, because Ronnie had the wherewithal to go, "Well, a blind guy singing about a golf club is not going to make a whole lot of sense. So let's get a golfer in here who's an artist as well." So Vince came in, and Ronnie and Vince did a great version of that song, put it on Ronnie's album that he had out called A Thing Called Something, or A Thing Called Love, or something like that. I think that was what the name of the album is, by Ronnie Millsap. And I put it on my album just because I had recorded it back in 2003 at Sun Records studio for my birthday. It was one of my birthday presents to myself. And it had been sitting around for a while, and I just thought, well, let me just listen to this and see if it's going to fit on this Lukenbach record. Sure enough, it did. It kind of fit the whole thing that everything was working toward on that album. So put it on there. Really wasn't intending so much to have it to come out as a single, but its numbers sort of came up, so to speak. So I said, well, let's give it a try. And I haven't regretted it yet. I'll tell you what, like I said earlier, it's already charting in places and already making playlists. It's only been seriously been sitting out for less than 2 weeks, week and a half at most. So
that's great. And Ronnie Millsap and Vince Gill both are legends. So the fact that you got a song that they wanted to do, I think is great. Now with Carl Perkins, this is something Jenny passed along to me. I didn't know this, but you were one of the last guys to actually get to write with him.
Yes.
Can you talk about what that was like for you, and what that means for you, getting to write with, one of the legendary great songwriters of the time?
Well, I learned a couple things. One thing I learned with Carl was if you're going to get it done then, because if you linger and you kind of like keep working at something, you can kind of wear it out. Mm-hmm. And basically what he means is you can take the energy out of it. You can take the original spark out of something if you try to do it too much. So we actually put a little demo down, and it was really the first run that we had at the song. And he said, "Hey, that's great. No problem." So the demo was sitting around for a while, and I reworked it a little bit to kind of sort of tighten it up, and that was a good thing. Debbie and Carl both liked that. Debbie was a lyricist on this as well, his daughter. The second thing I learned from Carl is, and this will go to anybody who is a musician, especially a guitar player out there. Carl was a really influential and really great guitar player, and he made it look really easy. The things that he did technically were not really that easy, but he made it look easy. This is how he did it. Carl would have his easy chair that he could sit up in with a little nightstand next to it, and he had a Bible sitting next to that. And then he had a little small amplifiers sitting there with his electric guitar. And he had the electric guitar. Sometimes he'd have it plugged in, sometimes he wouldn't. And he'd have all of this sitting in his den where his television was. Well, if he's watching a television show, he would pick up that guitar, and without having the sound up, he would just put his hands on it, and he would just start playing things, riffs, noodling, whatever, rhythms, anything. anything that keeps his hands moving up and down the neck of that guitar, anything that keeps his other hand making those rhythms happen with his fingers, with picking and with strumming and everything. So in a way, Carl basically was not telling people, but actually, if you saw it, you realize this is how he makes it feel so easy and natural, because it is natural. It was natural to him because he had it in his hands so much. And I compare it to golfers, oddly enough. Why are pro golfers so great? You know, when you watch them on television and they make it look so easy, they spend hundreds of hours hitting thousands of practice balls on the driving range, that when they get out on a golf course, they know what they're going to do. They don't have to try to remember any of the, any of the fundamentals. It's natural to them. Carl made playing the guitar, he took the fundamentals away because he made it natural to him. So I've tried to exercise and keep that always at the forefront of my guitar playing. Play it as much as you can. Keep it in your hands as much as you can. Even if it's wrong, even if it sounds terrible, just do it, because it's going to make it more enjoyable. And when you actually are performing for someone, you'll be able to it'll just come out of it,
okay.
You know.
And that's a really great advice. And actually, I would share that because prior to maybe a year and a half ago, I had never touched a drum set in my life, and I've been picking up drums this past year. And I would say that would be the same advice I would give to somebody. Make it natural. Make it just, even if you're playing drums wrong, in my case, which I play a lot wrong, do it. Keep going at it. And before you know it, I'm laying down grooves that I wouldn't have been able to do. I'm able to keep time with or without a metronome. And it becomes more intuitive. It becomes, I don't have to think about how I'm going to play this particular part. It's just there. And
you increase your comfort level by basically the repetition. You know, It has nothing to do with talent or, you have some incredible skill. All of those things are born out of repetition and out of desire to just stay after something. That's the key. So you have the keys in your hand now, is what I'm saying. So yeah.
Randy, all right, we got to wrap things up here, but where can people find you at? Where are you going to be performing at coming up here in late February, early March timeframe?
Well, if you're in Texas, you can go down to Woodville and watch me do my annual Valentine's Day shows, two dinner shows at a place called Wild Bill's Grill in a little town called Woodville, Texas, which anybody who lives in Texas, they know where Woodville is. I'm also going to be up in Midlothian on the 20th on a thing called the Crowman Jam. It's run by one of Texas' top country DJs here. He's won a lot of awards, and he's basically, if you want to shake the hand of somebody who knows most people in Texas music firsthand, Mike Crowman is the guy. So I'm going to be doing his show on the 20th at a place called the Oasis. It's called Crowman Jam, and a lot of people know about that. And if you want to see where I'm going, you go to my website, Randy initial C Moore, randycmoore.com, or Facebook. You can go to Friends of Randy C. Moore, or you can go to Randy C. Moore Music. So those are the places to go to find all those things that will tell you about what I'm doing and what I've done.
Absolutely. Randy, it was a pleasure having you on one more time here. Always a friend to the show and to the station. Thank you so very much, and thank you for your time tonight.
All right. Appreciate you, Odie Coyote.
See you later.